A courtroom is supposed to be a place of justice, but what happens when the people enforcing the law forget what that means? In Winston County, a quiet Black woman is about to prove that a seasoned police officer has just made the biggest mistake of his career. She isn't just another face in the crowd, she's the new police chief, and she's here to change everything. Courtroom 4 of the Winston County Juvenile Division is a place of perpetual stillness, where fluorescent lights hum and proceedings repeat themselves with dull persistence. Mason Green, a 17-year-old boy with a pressed collared shirt, stands behind the defendant's table, his wrists stiff in handcuffs. His eyes are locked on the judge's bench, blinking slowly as if measuring the seconds until a future that feels already decided. The prosecutor reads the charges, skimming humanity from his script. Mason was observed loitering near Winston Jewelers and found with a timepiece exceeding $300 in value. There's no mention of video footage or fingerprints, just a vague description. Carter Boyd, the courtroom security officer, stands nearby like a statue carved from authority. His gaze follows every slight movement Mason makes, not like a man monitoring a room, but like a hunter tracking prey. He communicates through his presence, the way he folds his arms, the way his eyes narrow. He murmurs to no one in particular. He's not saying anything, as if silence itself is an admission of guilt. The room is filled with people who have seen this play before. The unprepared public defender stumbles through a weak defense, and the judge, a pale man in a robe 2 sizes too big, looks at the paperwork as if he's already made his decision. Boyd steps closer to Mason, his hand resting on the cuffs, not to bruise, but to assert control. "Keep still," he says flatly. Then, the door at the back of the courtroom creaks open. A pair of steady heels tap against the gray tile. It's the sound of someone with purpose, someone who knows they belong. Mason feels the shift in the room's atmosphere, and for the first time that morning, he looks up. His eyes meet the eyes of the woman who just entered, and he knows she isn't here to watch him fall. The woman enters the courtroom with quiet certainty, placing her briefcase on an empty chair. She wears a simple navy coat and a crisp white shirt with her hair pinned low. She carries herself with a calm presence that makes the entire room pause. No one recognizes her, and she wears no badge, but everyone can feel her unshaken authority. Officer Carter Boyd, who has stood like a statue all morning, narrows his eyes and begins to move toward her. This is his domain, and she is intruding. "Ma'am, who are you?" he asks with an edge in his voice. The woman doesn't respond. She simply opens her folder, pulls out a document, and holds it across her chest so the light catches the red seal at the top. Boyd, unused to being ignored, frowns. He steps closer, his voice growing colder. "This is the courtroom. You are not authorized to be here unless you've been summoned. I'm asking you to step away." The woman tilts her head slightly, not to evade him, but to get a clearer view of the judge. She doesn't raise the document dramatically, she just holds it. "Who do you think you are?" Boyd asks again, more sharply. He positions himself directly in front of her, blocking her view of the bench. Her eyes never move. She looks through him as if his presence isn't enough to divert her. Everyone in the room feels the structure of power beginning to crack. No one is complying, and the woman isn't disappearing. Boyd steps even closer, his hand resting lightly on his belt. But instead of stepping back, the woman moves forward half a step, a precise and deliberate gesture that makes the commanding officer blink for the first time that morning. Her refusal to disappear speaks volumes. The courtroom grows still, not from shouting, but from the weight of one woman's refusal to be intimidated. Boyd's frustration finally breaks through. "You come in here to defend that little thief," he snaps, his voice laced with bitterness. "You people are society's trash." The woman, still upright and silent, finally lifts her eyes to the judge. "Your Honor," she says, her voice clear and even. He is insulting someone who has not been convicted of anything. And if this is still a courtroom, then I have the right to demand that this behavior be stopped. She turns to Boyd, her voice low and full. My son Mason Green is 17. He has not been sentenced. You have no right to call him a thief, just as you have no right to call anyone here trash. Boyd takes a half step back, his script of rage and submission having been completely upended. He had shouted, insulted, and threatened, but none of it had moved her. Her stillness made him feel unarmed, and for the first time in his career, he saw someone who saw right through him. The judge, an older man with thinning white hair, watches the scene unfold with quiet uncertainty. He adjusts his glasses and waits, allowing the silence to solidify into inevitability. In that stillness, the woman finally moves again. She steps forward and raises the paper she's been holding all along, just enough for the judge to read the bold federal font at the top. My name is Jacqueline Green, she says, her voice low but resonant. As of this morning, I have been sworn in as the chief of police for the city of Winston. The words land flat and heavy. Boyd takes a visible half-step back, suddenly unarmed. The younger officer near the door blinks in disbelief, and the clerk leans forward to see the paper more clearly. Boyd's lips part, but no sound comes out. You expect me to believe that? He mutters, his voice cracking. You walk in here with a piece of paper and expect to run this room. Jacqueline doesn't flinch. I didn't come to run anything, she replies with certainty. I came to observe a case that concerns my son and to remind this court that justice does not begin with uniformed intimidation. She turns to face the judge again. This hearing is compromised, Your Honor. A sworn officer under your supervision verbally assaulted the accused and physically obstructed a lawful presence in this room. She folds the paper and returns it to her folder, then looks at Boyd for the first time, not with anger, but with acceptance of what he's still resisting. My son is not a criminal, she states simply, and this courtroom will not be the place where that lie gets written in ink. The judge finally clears his throat, a strained sound. Chief Green, are you requesting to stay as a representative of the family or to file an official complaint? Jacqueline looks at him with something close to mercy. I'm here to witness, because what just happened in this room requires someone willing to see it, name it, and not walk away. The judge gently taps his gavel once, and the court recesses for 10 minutes. As people begin to shift, Jacqueline remains standing exactly where she was, still and certain. Boyd, too, stays in place, but something in his posture has changed. He is no longer a mountain of authority. He is a man who has been measured and found lacking. The morning after the hearing, Jacqueline arrives at headquarters earlier than usual. She bypasses the front entrance and heads directly to the 4th floor, to the narrow hallway where Internal Affairs keeps its records. Her purpose is clear. Change doesn't start in press conferences. It starts in file rooms where forgotten names sit in dust-stained folders. She asks the junior officer at the desk for access to all closed case files involving Officer Carter Boyd going back 12 years. She wants everything that never made it past internal resolution. As thick envelopes and faded manila folders arrive, she opens them with the steady resolve of someone preparing to witness pain. She finds a civilian complaint from 2012, a young black man alleging excessive force during a traffic stop. The final note reads, "Subject displayed defiance. Officer Boyd acted with inaccessible discretion." There's no photographs, no disciplinary notes. The file is simply stamped "Incident closed." Jacqueline reads through the files and a pattern emerges. Young men, low-income neighborhoods, vague language, and no sustained investigations.
There are 8 complaints from civilians, 3 from defense attorneys, and 1 from a fellow officer who requested reassignment after raising concerns about Boyd's procedural coercion. None of the files have any internal response or disciplinary notation. Officer Patel from Records brings her one more file, a thin brown folder from before the department's digital transition. It's a handwritten statement from a woman named Lorraine Wexley, who described how Boyd had shoved her teenage son against a squad car, accused him of being a known risk, and detained him without charge. The file's note, in different handwriting, reads, "No witnesses, no video. Complaint marked unsubstantiated." Jacqueline closes the folder, absorbing the silence that followed these acts, a silence that had been policy. She doesn't feel rage, but a